Make me nervous, man.
I don't. I do have to tell you this. I got a phone call on the way here. It's incredible. A young man named Alex Charles.
Okay.
And I'm in tears on the way here.
Really?
Because he the first year that I started student teaching in 99, 2000. So that first year, he was my first class that I taught. He was a freshman.
Oh, wow.
And so my first football, first PE, first health, everything, he was there. There was a group of kids. And I have a picture of them somewhere. There was a huge group of them that I had. And he calls me and he says, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, Alex, how are you? He's like, how are the kids? And we're just talking. How are you teaching PE? He works at B&B Appliance. He runs it.
Okay.
And so he's amazing. He's worked so hard. And he calls me. He's like, I just wanted to call and tell you that I appreciate everything you've done for me. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, the life lessons that you taught me. And I'm like, and he started going on. He's like, there's things, and he started explaining them. And I started, tearing up. And I'm just listening to him. And I said, Alex, I don't know what I did, but and he said, I'll tell you what you did. And he told me specifically one thing that motivated. And I was like, and I said, I can't believe that.
Right.
And it's happened more than once. And I'm like, wow, that's, and I feel, God is saying like, hey, you're getting ready to start school. Don't forget.
Right.
It's like a reminder. And it was so intense. And I just sat there and I was like tearing up. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand like how much I learned because of you, right. From the greatest students to the ones that are the greatest troublemakers, the greatest quote unquote problem children.
Right.
You still learn a ton. So it was crazy. I mean, I was just sitting there. I was like, and we got off the phone. And I was just like, wow, that's incredible. Like, dang.
See,
it was crazy.
You got to text them this link, the link to the podcast.
See, that's where I had trouble. I'm like, look at me. No,
I know. No,
but I hear you. I hear you.
Damn, that's how we're starting. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of ThisLife, a podcast by Mayorca Media. We're here in the Local Hub studios once again. First, I want to give a big shout out to everyone that's been listening. It means the world to me, and it means the world even more when you send me like a Snapchat or a video of you like laughing or being like, "Yo, this is a great episode." Please keep it up. What you were just talking about, that makes my day. I got a text the other day from my friend Allie, and she was like, I just like laughed out loud at the episode of you and Julio, and I was like, damn, dude, Allie Caliendo, remember her?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She.
Oh wow.
Anyway, we're gonna get into this right now in a little bit, but I want to give a big shout out to Local Hub, as always, our sponsor. This is where we make the podcast. They are a co-working space, as I've said before. Right now they're doing 50% off when you sign up in August, and they are also they're actually not doing it, but we have remote workers here who work at home or have been working from home and have talked to their employer and have had them pay for their monthly subscriptions. So if you're a remote worker, you work for an agency or you work for anyone, and maybe you can't get work done at home and you need a different scenery, Local Hub is your spot. Their website is localhubsd.com. So if you go there, sign up, come visit us, say what's up, come say hi to me, and tell them I sent you. Today is a really special day. It's gonna be fun. Across from me here, I have teacher, coach, super fit guy. I mean, I can go on and on about this gentleman. Some of you, his name is Victor Garduno. Some of you know him as Coach Garduno, Mr. Garduno. It's usually just Coach Garduno, right?
Generally, yeah.
Generally. I know him as Coach Garduno, and even now I call him Coach Garduno. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very surreal. I think we talked about that. It's very humbling as well. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you came on. So we actually met before, and we had like a 2-hour, 3-hour conversation of just everything.
Yeah.
That we probably should have recorded. Hopefully we can duplicate it. But first of all, I want to kind of, for those that live under a rock and don't know who you are, what do you do?
Sure.
Who are you?
Well, I grew up in Escondido, and I actually went school locally. I grew up and I went to Glenview Elementary, Hidden Valley Middle School, and Orange Glen. So
Same.
very, very grateful. I had a very, very good experience all through. And when I say good experience, just people I met and things, it was great. It was good. But along the way in high school, I did sports and ran into a gentleman by the name of Ken Putnam, and he was my middle school PE teacher. And I would come back and see him in middle school and visit with him. And one day he said, I think you should get into teaching and coaching. And I said, no, at the time I was getting ready to do all my fire science classes, getting ready to finish EMT. And I wanted to go that route. That's the route I was planning on going. He said, no. This is, he explained it to me. And I said, And sure enough, I ended up changing my mind and changing career paths. So after graduating Orange Glen in 1992, it's a long time ago. Ooh, can't believe I said that.
Yeah, I wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, trust me, I feel that. I graduated, went to Palomar for 2.5 years, finished my AA degree, and then was very, very fortunate enough to get accepted to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Went there for 2.5 years, and then as fate had it, I came back, and it wasn't really by choice, but I came back to Escondido. My father was really ill. They didn't tell me until I literally walked through the door when I was done. Wow. I graduated in the spring, but I finished 3 months earlier. And when I came home, they told me, excuse me, my mom sat me down and said, your father has stomach cancer. Excuse me. And so at that moment, I stopped going any route of going to become a teacher, and I just started working full time in San Diego. So after that, that was in March. In July of 1998, my father passed away, and the last thing he said to me was, he said, "Go finish what you were doing. Don't do what you're doing now." He's like, "It's your dream. It's what you want to do." And there are a lot of things learned from him, but he passed away, and that was very life-altering. And soon after he passed away, I applied and got my credential through National. Was my Ken Putnam, who was the one that kind of pushed me in that direction, was my student teacher. And that year, I did student teaching in the spring and got hired that year and started teaching 99-2000 at Orange Glen High School and been there since. So, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, it's been so many ups and downs, and when it all comes down to it, it's like, man, it's a good life. Like, it's been really good.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't teaching. If I wasn't coaching, I don't know. It would be something in the health industry, I imagine, but it wouldn't be as important or as gratifying as being a teacher. There's something about it. Right. So, and I feel it. I mean, going on 22 years here coming up.
What, you said you had a full-time job. What was that job?
I actually worked now it's called Verizon, and I did outside sales. But back in the day in 98, it was called AirTouch.
Damn.
So AirTouch, which is now Verizon, I worked for them.
That's crazy.
And did outside sales. So I wore a suit and tie every single day for months.
How was that?
That was terrible. Yeah. That was off. That was now when people see me in a suit and tie, it's like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, well, I own a suit. I mean, shoot, I got to have one. But it was awful. I mean, talk about doing something that you don't love or aren't passionate about. It'll drain you, and I can see why people are just not happy. And I get it. There's something to be said. So,
do you think you would have been a teacher if your dad hadn't have said, "Finish what you started"? Because sometimes you're on that, you're kind of tiptoeing that line, right? And you don't. I mean, the same thing happened to me. You don't really have. I mean, thank God for my mom. She was same thing. I mean, she wasn't dying, but she was like, "Go for it." Yeah. Same with this podcast. Shout out to my mom. She was like, "Now's the time. Right. Do it. Now's the time." And I was just like, I agree. So do you think you would have been a teacher if you wouldn't have said that?
I believe I would have if he was, because I was planning on doing it. I didn't know he was sick. So I was actually planning on doing it and planning on becoming a teacher. And actually, it wasn't even going to be here. So, I mean, and that's a longer story. That's a different time.
We got time.
But I think I would have the turning point, and I believe more than anything, that day, that night that he told me that, it was I would say it was a life changing. It was a turn for things for my life, because I really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it was a life lesson from him.
Yeah.
You start seeing things when you get older about what people have said to you. And if I start looking at it, I was, 22, 23. And this man was 54. And when I look at it now, the amount of experience he had over me, for him to give me that advice was something. And I didn't know it at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, okay, he was speaking to me. Like he was, don't do what I do. Don't go to work and do this. And, basically work yourself to death, exhausted. And don't get me wrong, I'm exhausted, from coaching and stuff and waking and running and all that stuff. But it was, as you get older, you start realizing the people before you that laid the foundation are the ones that have the experience and the wealth of knowledge to give it to you.
Right.
And so would I become a teacher? I believe so. I think it would have been different though. The attitude, everything. Yes. Because my dad, both my parents came from Mexico, and they work here, and shortly after, like when I was in high school, or at Palomar, excuse me, my dad became a citizen. He took the test, everything. After my dad passed away, my mom became a citizen.
Okay.
Excuse me. And, my dad, he went from working on a chicken ranch off of San Pasqual Valley Road, Old 78. Yeah. There's an equestrian park.
Okay.
That used to be a chicken ranch. My mom and dad lived there. He would run the ranch. Then he became a mechanic. He worked for Waste Management here in Escondido, mm-hmm. and then became a mechanic. So it's crazy. I mean, like he everything he did was off a 6th grade education.
Wow.
So when I looked at it, it really didn't sink in. Like it didn't make sense. As I got older, I started realizing, like, wow, look at all that he does. Like it really started sinking in.
Yeah.
All the sacrifices he makes. And my mom, same thing. She had an 8th grade education, and she didn't have any kind of background in school or any kind of degree or anything. And she worked for Sony for years until she retired.
Dang.
So, and she retired just shortly before my father passed away. But it's nuts. I mean, the things that you're, like for me, my parents, what they gave me, the foundation of like, those people worked.
Right.
And it's like, okay. So I think looking at him and what happened in his last months and how he attacked everything, it was with a tenacity. It was with a purpose. It was like, no, this is how you work. When we were at his funeral, his good friend, I gave the eulogy and his good friend gave the eulogy. And he used those words. He says, I've never seen anyone work with such tenacity, with such a purpose of just being the best that he could. And I remember seeing that and hearing that, and it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And, the excuses started to become less and less. Mm-hmm. And then the reasons to keep going became higher and stronger and more. So they both were. And, my mom's still alive and actually still lives in the same house that I grew up in.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But, he gave a lot, and I learned a lot from him after the fact.
Puras ganas.
100%.
As they say.
Without a doubt.
Give me one sec.
Sure.
I think I forgot to turn on the mic on the camera.
We have to do it again.
Yep. Oh, that was a close one. Okay.
Did it still record everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything, and then because I have that audio and I have this audio, and I just sing it together, and I just use this audio.
Man, you work hard.
Okay. So I have to stop saying so.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I want to share a story, and I want to go back to, I think I'm going to keep the beginning part that you told me about the Alex gentleman.
Oh yeah. Sure.
There it is again. And I want to tell everyone, and I told you this last week, you and I I took your weight training class, which, holy crap, that was crazy. But I took your weight training class. I played football, and we had a couple of run-ins. We weren't like that buddy, like close. I mean, not that you're buddy with your students, but
no,
you wouldn't call it like that. We're very close,
Sure.
but there's not an incident, but one interaction
Sure.
that we had that stuck with me. And I told you, and anyway, I was sitting, my aunt was a cashier, my Lazu Maya, shout out. And she would let me just hang out there during lunch. I obviously didn't want to be around people because I was severely depressed and I had no idea. And I've already spoken about that, but right. I was in there just kind of listening to my music. I had my headphones or my earphones in, and you came in and you started speaking to me. I don't really remember about what, but I had one earphone out, and and you were I think you were speaking to me about the workout. You were like, "Are you sore?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sore." And you were like, "Really? How?" And as you spoke, you just very, very gently took the earphone out of my ear. Yeah. And I was all slouched, like sitting on a chair and just being a total disrespectful sophomore. And I remember being super pissed off and super,
right.
And I said this to you, like my chest was like puffed out and I was just like, I was like steaming and you left and I was like, I'm going to sue him. I'm going to tell my parents. I hate him. But that stuck with me because at the time I didn't know that it was you teaching me something. It was teaching me about respecting myself and respecting others. When someone walks in, you stand up. Hey, how are you? You take the earphones out. I told you that even now when someone like is talking to me, I'll be like washing the dishes downstairs and they'll be like, hey. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah,
I'll dry my hands all quick and like, okay, I'm listening now. Right. And, I mean, at the time I was pissed, and I'm sure a lot of other people have a moment like that with a teacher where they're just like, man, that guy's a jerk.
Right.
But then afterwards they're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
So, and you spoke about Alex, how he gave you one instance
right.
of having you making an impact on him.
Right.
Are there any others that have kind of stood out to you that people come up to you and say, hey, I remember when you did this and it changed my life, or it did this, or do you have any other little examples of something like that happening? You
know, it's funny. I generally don't share things like that with anyone.
Okay.
And the reason I don't is, it's more of I'm not trying to boast. You know, I generally don't share with him just because I feel like, oh, look, he's going to talk about himself. And I generally don't. I really don't. I look at it as a blessing, like God speaking, you know, through this person saying something. It's like, I needed it at the time. And maybe I don't know I needed it, but I needed it. Right. But there's been more so in the past, probably in the last couple of years, 3 years, and they've come at the right time in the last 3 years for sure. But I was in Cocina del Charro with my friend, and so she and I were sitting there, and this young man, Julian, comes up. He's like, "Oh, Coach Garduno," and I was like, "Hey," and he goes, "Oh man, let me get a picture with you. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem." I'm like, I'm not so okay. You know, I work at Orange Glen, right? I'm not gonna be on the TV. And so, you know, so it's funny. So my friend Shannon goes like, looks at me, and I go, and so we're sitting there, and he goes like, "Oh man, this guy, he was, you know," and I just kind of tuned out, but I could see the joy in his face. He's like, "Man, I love taking your class, and we did this. And he's like, "Man, thank you so much." And I was just like, wow, you know, just a thank you.
Right.
Young man, Eddie Espinoza. Eddie. Same place. Shout out to Eddie.
Shout out. Yeah, man. Shout out to Eddie.
But Eddie Espinoza came up to me, and same place. We're in the same place, and my friend and I, and Shannon and I were sitting there, and he starts talking to me. He's like, "Coach, you don't understand. Like you were this. We saw you work, and you know you pushed these guys, and you did this, but you know you loved us." And I was like, "Gosh, dang it, yeah."
Yep.
You know, there's those instances. One last one I'll tell you was really incredible because I didn't even speak to him. I was in PE class, and I'll run with my PE classes. I'll always, you know, try and run with them each class at some point, just to show them like what you're doing, I'm gonna do. And whatever you're gonna do, I'll do it.
Practice what you preach.
Exactly. And so I believe in that. Not everyone has to. I don't look at someone else who doesn't. I'm like, okay, that works for them. No problem.
Right.
Not my place. But Brian Moreno.
Shout out.
Works at T-Mobile. And T-Mobile now in Orange County. but I saw him at North County Fair or Westfield. Sorry.
Yeah.
Old.
I
was on Westfield at the mall, and he said, and I walked in there, and he was like, Coach Garduno. I go, oh, Brian, what are you doing? Oh, I'm a manager here. I'm like, Brian, that's so great. He's like, yeah, I'm working my butt off, and this, and this. And I said, wow, that's so awesome, Brian. I'm really happy for you. He's like, what do you need? I was like, oh, I just want to check this for my daughter. And he's like, he said, I just want to thank you because I think about you almost every day. And I was like, well, what happened? What did I do? Like, you either did something really great or you did something to motivate them to say, forget you, like, I'm going to do this. And he said, it wasn't even to me. We were running, and the one girl ahead of me, you were running with her, and you said something to her, and I heard it, and it's always stuck with me. And I was like, well, what, Brian, what is it? He's like, it's one thing to quit. It's another thing to give up. And he said, neither are going to get you to where you're going to be. They're not going to get you ahead in anything. You cannot quit and you can't give up. You cannot. You always have to go forward. And he's like, that's always motivated me, and I just want to do well.
Wow.
And I was like, and he's like, you weren't even talking to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was, I don't know how I said that and in what fashion, but he said the words quit and give up. And he said, and just, you can't fail.
That's crazy.
And so I was like, wow. Okay.
So I that actually stuck with me because I also thought about, what impact do I make in the world? Right. You obviously have, your platform as a teacher. I'm not like social media famous, but I've had people reach out to me about maybe something that I posted or a podcast or something saying, hey, it's so great to know that I'm not alone.
Right.
And that reinforces, and I strongly believe this, is that words are so powerful. Words are, like, I've been called a gaslighter before, and yeah, it was stupid. I'm not going to get into that, but I'll get pissed again. But I had, who did I have? I had a volleyball player reach out to me, and she was like, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that's how you were feeling. And you were always so positive. You were always so, I loved playing for you. And you always knew, how to speak to us. And I absolutely loved that because I whenever I started coaching volleyball, like a new season, I would say, if you respect me, I respect you. If you don't respect me, there's a door. You can walk out. That's fine.
Right.
And then I tell them as well, like, if you don't want to keep doing this and you're showing up, not giving me effort, leave. That's fine. Maybe you'll find a passion somewhere else.
Right.
I won't hold it against you. And this girl was like, that actually made me think about whether I wanted to play or not. But it made me want to play more. And I was just like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't even remember saying that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's something I believe in, but words are just, they're so powerful, especially with people that, respect you a ton. But I want to touch a little bit on, if you're comfortable talking about this, your faith.
Okay, absolutely.
And how you tie that in. I'm not a very religious person. That being said, I'm not like an atheist or anything.
Right.
But I speak to people that are in tune with their faith. And you and I spoke about it, about playing church and actually going to church.
Right.
And how does that influence your life every day? How do you kind of coincide with faith and mental health and everything? Well,
I do have to tell you one thing. The fact that you came out saying that you struggle with depression, and that it was so amazing, and I was so proud of you for doing that, because, and not that you need my approval or anything, but to think that someone can be that vulnerable and just to speak. I mean, that platform that you have is helping others. To say like, wow, you're a player. I had no idea. And I think, and we talked about this, like we share a lot of the same characteristics and flavors of depression, where I will, kind of struggle with.
I like flavors.
And I think that the scariest thing is for someone to see us for who we are, really. And if they would see us, if they knew everything about us, would they still respect us or like us? Exactly. That is the scariest thing, because like for me, I can tell you, and I told you, I made tons of mistakes. I look at the teacher I was, and not that I'm the most charismatic influence. I don't look at myself that. I look at someone who is passionate about what they do, like loves what they do to the core of their being. I love being in front of students. I love being at school. I love my job 100%. It is the best career move I ever made. In the same note, what if they saw me for what I was at my lowest points?
Right.
What would they say? And so, you know, when a player says like, I had no idea. Well, I'm not sure that we would really, you know, kind of show them who we are. And when we do, are they mature enough to say like, whoa, okay. You know what I mean? Because it is maturity. Yeah. It's 100% maturity.
Big time.
And my faith, see, that's the funny, we talked, I grew up a Catholic, cradle Catholic, baptism, communion, you name it, everything. You have to do all this stuff. You know, stuff. And you know, that's what I knew, and that's what I believed in. And I started understanding that more and more. A friend of mine, Kevin Johnson, and shout out to him. He's a good man. He lives out in Alabama now. I was going through a really tough time, and I was looking at him, and I thought, our daughters were playing softball. They were, you know, 12, 13 years old. And and one day I'm at a game and I'm looking around. I'm like, hey Deb, where's Kevin? Oh, he took the kids to church. And I'm like, why isn't he here watching his daughter play? Like, I know it's Sunday, but you got to come watch your daughter. And I kept thinking like, what's different about him? Well, he agreed to meet with me. Like I said, it was a very low point. And he agreed to meet with me.
And this was when? I'm sorry.
This was 2012.
Okay.
2012. And he agreed to meet with me, and I sat down with him, and he started talking about Christ and the relationship with Christ. And I sat there, and I was like listening to him. But then we started sharing. We were very, very transparent. We were talking and everything. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, Kevin, you struggle with the same things I do. The same types of thoughts and anger or whatnot. You struggle with, and he's like, you bet. But in my mind, I kept thinking like, I had no idea. Yeah. You have it all together. You know, you got it going. Like, you got it.
Exactly.
And so, man, he is a big, him, Robert Prescott, and Anthony Taylor, these three men really shaped me to understand, like, you have to pursue Christ. And the religion part is one thing, but the religion part, you can get caught up in all the bells and whistles, if you will. Right. And so, and that relationship with Christ is ongoing. So how it helps me, I think, is I think the biggest thing is patience. And I struggle with that at times. I really do. It's hard because I have to take a step back and understand where someone's coming from. And it does come, people say you lose patience as you get older. I'm actually in a point where I think I have more patience than I did when I was younger. I look at the type of teacher coach that I was when I was younger, and oh man, I in a snap, I would break. And I would just go off.
Hothead.
Oh, big time. Without a doubt.
Same.
You know, and now, you know, dealing with a student, a disruptive student, whatever, just snap off, just, you know, and almost berate them. And
well, that's how we were taught.
Well, exactly. So, you know, generally you're going to be what your parents are, or what you've seen, or what you grew up with. What I started realizing was that, that's good. Yeah. What I started realizing was that there's every student, every person you interact with is going to respond differently. Right. And with that, there's students and players that I could just rip into. And when I say rip into, you know, you're coaching them, you're critiquing them, you're telling them, like, we just went over this, you got to, you know, this is what you got to know, and just almost challenging them. Right. And there's other players and students that you got to just pull aside and be like, tell me why you did that. Like, explain how that works. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of looking at you, and they've never been asked, like, hey, tell me why you're doing that. And they're kind of, why aren't you losing your mind? Exactly. You know, and it's to the point where in the past, you know, so many years, it's students misbehaving and doing something. I go step outside. What? Step outside. And I start talking to the class, and they might be and even cussing. And oh man, if I was younger and they were cussing, no, it's over. Like, no. Mm-mm. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, you feel good about it? Okay, good. So we go outside. I'm like, again, tell me what happened. And they're almost like, they're waiting. They're like, you know, like you said, like puffed up. Yeah. And I'm like, you're waiting for the reaction. You're just waiting. And so, punch first. And so I'm like, okay, I'll duck and then I'll cross you. But you do that to a student. You're like, tell me what happened. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, talk to me.
Right.
You know, so you're coming down. So, and a lot of that goes back to faith is being patient and being slower to anger. Like these, I guess you'd say these little terms that you could put on a coffee cup or something, but they are impactful.
Right.
I think the relationship with Christ has been very beneficial, especially during this transition of COVID and everything. It's been very trying. It's been very difficult at times. And along with going to run and lifting and, you know, going out and just trying to be active, that has been something that I've grasped onto a lot and believe in 100%. And, you know, I tell students all the time, my faith, which I can't talk to you about because we're here at school, but I believe in this because and your faith might be a certain quote, or it might be God, or it might be your religion, this, you know, Buddhism or whatever, you know, I don't know. But I said that faith is a very integral part of finding basically who you are, I believe, and what you were meant to be and how you were created. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. And some people don't, and that's, you know, okay. But I also don't shove it down people's, you know, throat. If there's an opportunity to talk about it, I'll gladly talk about it. I'll talk about it as much as I can. If I don't know, I'm going to tell them I don't know, you know? So I think that has been really one thing that's helped me a lot in teaching. Don't get me wrong. I still fire off. I still get after it because
you cannot.
No, you can't. I mean, and trust me, I challenge people all the time in class, every time. And there's some that respond and others that don't. I'm like, okay, you don't respond. Let's find out how you do. Yeah. You know, but if we're not going to challenge them, then what good are we doing? You have to challenge them. Right. I mean, because you come to my class, you come to practice, you're responsible for your attitude and your effort. That you control that. I'll control everything else, what the workout is, but you respond by what you give, and that response is going to tell me a lot. I tell students all the time. I feel, and I'll argue with any teacher on campus, my class, my profession, my colleagues, we teach the most important subject on campus. And a lot of people argue like, well, they can't read, you know, they can't do English, oh, they can't math, they can't worry about. I said, yes, but if they stop moving, what happens when they stop moving? They die. Yeah. If you stop moving, you die.
That's true.
So, and I said, but also understanding why we shouldn't stop moving. Not just, you know, you got to go run, which I do a lot, and I send the kids on, but why? There's a reason why. And this is why. And especially look at COVID, people just sitting around and, you know, being just in their own thoughts. You got to move. And, you know, people are stressing that. So I feel like it's that important. It is that much. It speaks that highly of what we do. And all that to me comes back to faith and what we were meant to be. So, yeah.
Excuse me. I want to go back to something you said, because I went to school to be a teacher. I graduated with a history degree, which I totally use now. And the thing that threw me off, when I used to work at after school programs, I always wanted to give more and tell the kids more. For example, in my 5th grade class, my 2nd year of after school program, there was this big bullying thing going on. Okay. Like girls were bullying each other, boys were bullying each other. Like it got bad. So I kept everyone inside and I started talking to them, you know, and I asked them, what is bullying to you? And this one girl that always got bullied was like, Rose, like, she was like, right away, I'm first. And she was just like, bullying is this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, who else? And then people just started speaking up. And it got to the point where we're all on the same page. And some kid was like, well, why is bullying bad? Doesn't that like make you stronger? And I was in that tough position where I could be like, yeah, man, but if you're the last person, if this person is living in a hellhole at home, comes to school, and then the last thing they hear is you're an idiot. Right. And that sets them off and they decide to just kill themselves. You're responsible for that. Right. And I almost said that, but I was tiptoeing around it. And then also working in the public sector for so long, right, made me not want to do it anymore, because everything you do pretty much reflects on the city of Poway, reflects on Coronado, right, or there's all this red tape where it kind of holds you back. Do you ever find that to be a problem when you're trying to kind of bring a point across to kids? You know, it's funny you say that. I've had numerous run-ins with parents,
And one in particular, I'll never forget the parent. I don't know the student. I can't tell you something, but I can still see the parent. And she looked at me and says, "It's your responsibility to figure out what's wrong with him." And I looked at her and I said, I was, this is where patience, I didn't have it, but I was very calm. And I said, if it's my responsibility to figure out what's wrong with him, then you failed at your responsibility for the last 16 years to figure out how to bring him to me.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like, okay, you're going to talk to me like that. I'm going to talk to you. And I look at it now and I think that's not the right thing to do. Like you fight something negative with something negative. Like, I'm going to hurt you. Oh, you're going to challenge me. I'm going to hurt you back. And I, as much as I want to say like, oh no, I got that. It's still like, take a deep breath. And I have to think to myself, what situation am I getting into? Think before you say anything. So do I find anything that holds me back? Not necessarily. Because and this is where the hard part, where this distance learning, everything that's going to happen, you develop a relationship, you build a culture in your class. And like you said, in the weights class, we had a culture. It was, here's what we do, here's how we do it, and this is what we do. This is just it.
Don't sit at the gym. Don't sit in the weight room.
Don't sit in the weight room because, and because this is a place of work. And if you can take that to your classroom mentality, this is a place I've got to get this done. Then that's why I say it's the most important subject in all of school, because I can learn a lot about a student by the way they participate in my class. I learn a lot about them, as far as mentally, as far as being pushed. And I start learning, I go, okay, I'm going to learn. Okay, I got this person. Okay, I think I got him. Let's figure it out. Yeah. So if I look at things that have stopped me, there really is, obviously there's laws and codes and stuff. Right. but there's nothing that stopped me, because I've always developed a relationship with the students of honesty. I'm going to tell you exactly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say like, man, that was so good. If it wasn't good, it wasn't good. You can do better. I told students, reach up as high as you can, and they'll, okay, reach higher.
Yeah.
Why are you, reach as high, show me, like, stand up, get on top of something. Look how high I can reach. Like, it's always challenge, always trying to figure out a relationship to build with them so you can keep challenging them. Like you said, calling them an idiot. I tell, why are you acting like an idiot? And they'll look at me. I'm like, you're acting like it, and you're not. Yeah. Like, you are so much better and so much greater than this, but you're acting like this. Tell me why. Yeah. Like, what is it? What's going on? Because that's not how you act. We all act differently. Words. We have professions. We talk to professionals. We have to talk a certain way. We talk to our friends. We talk to our boys and stuff, and we talk a certain way. I think you have to know how to push them and what avenue you need them to go. Like, okay, this is what we do, and this is how you react here, and let them be kids. Let them be, what up, Coach G? I'm like, what's up? Yeah, what's up? Yeah. Like, and it's like, hey man, how's it going? And then, handshake. I go, this is how we do it. Yeah. I go, but I'll be your boy today right now. That's fine. So it's funny. Like, it's just, I don't, for me, I don't see anything that stops me, because I'm not doing anything with a malicious heart. I'm not doing anything to belittle a person. Right. But if I were, and I did, man, I think I'm harder on myself than anything, because the moment I do it, I go apologize to them. And I've done that for years, because it'll eat at me. I can't have this. I can't let this person leave like this.
That's big.
So, my own kids too. I think I told you, I coached my daughter's softball team for years, and I ripped into her. Like, but I told her in the beginning, I said, I'm going to be so hard on you because you're my daughter. And I don't want people to question why you're playing. I don't want people to think like, oh, she's just playing because her dad's the coach. Yeah. And I was like, no. You're going to be out there because you deserve to be out there. And when you don't deserve to be, you'll move in the lineup. You're like, okay, you're batting third. Now you're batting eighth. Yeah. Because you're not hitting. So how do we fix it? And we would sit there and talk and whatever and about it afterwards, because I would tear into her. I would challenge her, and afterwards I would tell her why. And at times when I did something wrong, if I might have said something wrong, not cussing by any means, but just said something like berated her, belittled her. Right. I stopped at, so many minutes later or whatever, pulled them all in, like the whole team heard it. I brought them in, and I looked at her. I said, what I said to you was unacceptable. That's not okay. I let my emotions get away, and I let myself go into a place that I shouldn't have gone. It's okay. And I'm looking at it going, it's not okay.
Right.
It's not. That then created a young girl who literally says, don't ever stop challenging me because I'm going to prove you wrong. And so it's like, okay.
That's awesome.
So it's there's nothing that really, I don't think if a student or a person knows, or even wants to just believe that you're coming from a good place and that you care. And I think that's why coaches and teachers, the coaches that really fly off the handle and the players respond to it, like, okay, they have a relationship with that person, and they know where they're coming from. They want the best for them. They want the best out of them. And this person responds this way, so I'm going to go off on you.
Right.
So it works that way. It works both ways. I mean, there's plenty of them. I remember like my son, when he was young, Ben, you didn't really have to yell at Ben. And I tell you, like that kid.
You want to take a break?
No, we're good, man. We're good. Okay.
Deep breath.
Yeah, deep breath. There's he played flag football, and this is before I really started, I guess, learning more about coaching and words and such. And I'll remember one time I grabbed him. And I didn't grab him like force him, but I grabbed him and I said, hey, I told you to run the route like this. And I told you, and you run it like this. And he just stared at me, because the kids were always taught to, like, you're going to look at them.
Yeah.
If someone's talking to you and giving you information, you're going to look straight at them. I don't care if they're looking around, I don't know, but you're going to look at them. And because it's a sign of respect.
Right.
And I remember him just staring at me. And I sat there. And this is years later, I started looking, and just probably about a month ago, I said, I drove by this football field in Vista where I was, and I remember doing that to you. And now when I drive by that football field, like, my heart breaks a little bit.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm so sorry. I did not know the impact that I had on you. And I'm so sorry. And he looks at me and he goes, that's okay. And I go, no. And I didn't know at the time, and it never sank in. And it wasn't until recently when I was like, damn. But as parents, it doesn't matter who you're going to mess up.
Yep.
And that culture, that interaction that you have with your kids, your students, whatever, if you have that base of a relationship, if you have that faith, then you know that things will work out. They will. Whichever way they're going to work out. And yeah, it's
brutal.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I want to touch more on what it is like to be a parent because, and again, I'm going to talk about something that we spoke about before. You said that your kids were kind of going through something because you were going through something. I actually had an incident, and I'm kind of debating on telling the story, but so my mom listens to the podcast. Shout out to my mom. Big shout out to my mom.
Absolutely.
And, and this just happened last night. And she told me, careful what you say on your podcast, because, your clients will listen and all this other stuff. And I was like, all right, that's just mom being mom. She's worried. She's probably going to be even pissed that I talked about, just listen, mom, hold on. And I was just like, okay, fine. So we talk again, and she says, she walks over to me and she goes, I had no idea that you were depressed in high school. Why didn't you tell me? And my dumbass, no, it wasn't a dumbass moment. It was more of like I wasn't understanding where she was coming from, and she wasn't understanding where I was coming from.
Sure.
So I immediately I was like, why are you making this about yourself? Like, I'm just, I'm putting these things out there. You told me to start this thing. And
right.
Like I told you before, it's been a long week. I've been pretty emotional.
Sure.
And I think that all just caved in and came out, and we spoke about it today. Mm-hmm. I told her, look, I was a teenager. I had no idea what was going on. I was scared. I I just thought that's how people felt. I thought, I've always learned, don't be a pussy, just move on,
Right.
be happy. You're fine.
Right.
And I spoke about that in my podcast with Jasmine, episode 3, go listen to it. And just shameless plug.
That's perfect. You got to, man.
Anyway, we spoke about, she was talking about how I love my mom. I tell my mom everything. And my mom and I have had a great relationship, but at times it's been shaky. During high school, I barely talked to her because I just kind of was depressed. I didn't know what was going on, and just so much stuff going on. And that brought me back to those times when she'd be like, how was school? And I'd be like, good.
Right.
Good.
Right.
And I didn't see it before, but she was just trying to reach out and have a relationship with me and be like, I see something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. Please tell me. But of course, you're a teenager. You're like, get out of my room, mom.
Yeah, exactly.
So we spoke about it today, and she said, look, this is what I meant. And this is what she's like, for a mom, it's so hard when you see your kids struggling, but you don't know how to help.
Right.
You don't know what's going on. And she's like, you need to have a parent on. And I was like, mom, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
not me.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, well, anyway, she was like, as a mother, especially as a Mexican mother, because Mexican mothers are they love their kids.
Absolutely.
We're a part of them. And they have, not that like white mothers or other mothers don't think like that, but
it's a culture.
It's a culture thing.
It's
exactly.
For sure.
So she was like, you have no idea how bad it hurts to hear this now and hear it on some show that you're just putting it out to people.
Right.
And I said, okay, I understand that.
Right.
But look at me now. Look at what I'm doing. Look at how far I've come. Look at what I'm still doing. And I'm continuing to live with this depression and all that crap.
Right.
But I'm handling it. And if I ever need you, I'm going to talk to you. And then boom, hugged it out. She cried a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't cry. But have you ever been in a situation like that where you see your kids suffering, you don't know what's going on, or you do know what's going on, or how do you handle that as a parent?
It's again, mistakes. I think in any success is never just always winning. You have to fail more than you have. I mean, it's a total cliche. You do have to fail a ton to succeed. You have to. There's never going to be the right way. There's never a clear road, like just a straight road to everything. Parenting, definitely. You do like this all over the place. You just squiggle back and forth, and there's the end result, but you're still over here doing this. So, and people will say that. Older people will tell you like, you're going to mess up, and you're just like, yeah, okay. It's true.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, the best thing that I have done that's been the most successful, and not everyone agrees with it. Not everyone agrees with the way I parented or the way, the kid's mom parented, but we agreed on one thing, is that we're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it together this way. And again, it doesn't work for everyone, but, I would say I was very strict, but I built a foundation with the kids. That's what we did as two parents. I feel that we built a foundation and an open line of communication. There's mama's boys. There's boys tend to go with their moms.
Yeah, me.
And I totally get that.
Yeah.
I wasn't a mama's boy, I don't think, until really after my dad passed away. I wasn't all that tight, because in high school, you kind of like okay, my mom, but I was more with my dad. He was at home in the evening. My mom was working the night shift. So,
right.
But I think you develop a relationship, and some sort of foundation is set. To this day, my daughter, Kayla, I love you.
Shout out. Big shout out to
Kayla.
And Ben.
We'll get to him in a second. We'll shout him out in a second. But to this day, Kayla will open up to me and say, Dad, I need your help. And that was built over time, because I feel I would just approach her. Hey, Kayla, what's wrong? Nothing. Well, what's wrong with, and I would bring up a name. Is this, and she's like, how do you know? And I would say, because I'm a boy. I was a boy.
Yeah.
I'm still a boy, and trying to figure out how to be a man.
Right.
And I just know these things. I'm around it all the time, but I know it. I can see it. And she would open up and tell me, and it's amazing. Dad, I don't know how to help this person. I don't know. I can't relate to them. I don't know what to do. And as a father, that's all you want from your kids. From your children, that's all you want is them to come to you like at an age, because they're going to come to you. They're not going to come to you because they're like, you don't know. We're just old and stuff. Yep. You can't even work your phone. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can answer it. I'll text you back.
It takes me a while, but I do it.
Yeah, but I figured, I got to pull the phone away. But as a parent, that's what you want. You want them to be able to come to you at a certain point in their life. And she's 18. She just turned 18 in January. And a lot of people's like, oh, she's an adult. No, not yet. And, she would say like, yeah. I said, listen, there's two things that change. One, you can go to prison, and two, you can vote. I go, besides that, nothing's changed. And she's like, dang.
Yeah.
So, but, I joke a lot, but now she has more freedoms. And I think that's based on the relationship and everything the foundation is built and keep moving forward, and that I think is the biggest thing to build a foundation. Ben, God, shout out to Ben. Benjamin.
Now, all right, shout out.
I have literally, we have two amazing kids. We really do. They know how to push our buttons for sure. But
that's our job.
Yeah, for sure.
That's our job as kids.
Their mom and I, we have two amazing kids. Respectful, work hard. But they're also two different kids. They're totally different.
Right.
Kayla is very much like, bubbly, and Ben's just really kind of
to himself,
even keel, and just kind of like, yep, just kind of there. And I don't like to I don't like to label them as anything. I think that's also when they're younger, you're like, oh, you're just like, and then there's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna believe that.
Yeah.
But I remember when they're toddlers, they would be climbing up a ladder, and their mom's like, no. I'm like, no, don't tell them no. Like, hey, this is how you do it. Like, help them so they can start figuring it out on their own. Like, that was a big thing for me, because you start telling someone, no, you can't do that. Pretty soon they either start believing it, like, oh, I can't do that, or, hey, no, I can. Watch me. Don't tell me I can't, kind of thing. So I think that, circling back and everything, they're the same. They're both great work ethic. They do well in school. They think critically. They can do for themselves. They can speak to someone. One thing that's amazing, and I'll just go real quick, because Ben, he had to pick up a car at the district office, and I was giving his mom a ride home, and he sat out there. It's so funny. Rich Watkins, who's in human resources, I believe. I don't know. He's the district office. I totally don't know. I try to just do my job as best I can. But Rich Watkins, all of a sudden, we're driving away, and I look over, and Rich is talking to my son. Okay, we drive away. Football game a couple of weeks later, he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I just want to tell you something. You have an amazing son." And I was like, "Whoa." And to me, that as a parent, you're like, wow, because as a parent, they're just like bugging you, and they're just like, you're just like, oh, do I pick up that? Why don't you pick up? Why are you just sitting there? Stop playing your video game. And but he's like, you have amazing son. He just sat there and he had a conversation with me, and it was a great conversation. He looked at me and he did, man. And this is was someone who was a teacher when I was in high school. So those things of eye contact, those things of speaking and being able to hold a conversation with someone older than you or whoever, it sticks out. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he just, I don't know how much he liked talking to this old guy, but he sat there and talked to me and looked at me and shook my hand. And I'm like, wow. So they're both the same, but they're also just different. They're mannerisms. And to say that I love them would be an understatement. Like you said, like moms and such, there was nothing that I wouldn't do for them. Yeah. Like absolutely not. If they needed something, I'll find a way. Whatever. Now, if they want something, you got a good job. But no, even then, if they need something, like I'll find a way. Yeah. And if something, you hear this all the time from people like, oh, I'd give my life for my kids in a heartbeat. Like no doubt about it. It wouldn't even be a thought. It'd be like done. For That's sure. Awesome. So that I think is parenting. Yeah. Just that relationship.
So Did you hear that, Mom?
Sounds like you had a good one.
I think it goes both ways because, and I look at the way I've behaved in the past, and I'm just like I said, I'm 25 years old. I'm kind of a hothead still.
Sure.
And I know sometimes I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
Especially when they're your parents, you're just kind of like, shut up, Mom. I'm
Yeah,
25.
exactly.
Yeah,
I'm a
but
man.
yeah, exactly. But like you're saying, like, yeah, we never really grow up in their eyes, and
No.
I mean, they just want the best for us. Mom, I love you.
Absolutely.
But so your thing is just pretty much, because I have a lot of friends who listen to this who are young parents, or we're kind of old now. Anyway, I have friends who are parents, and I mean, they're just trying to figure it out. I think at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. But
for sure,
for the parents out there, is it just throw in a little bit to kind of build that relationship in the long run, or is that kind of what you're hinting at?
You know, I think, and again, this is my belief 100%. I believe in this wholeheartedly. I think more than anything, the time that you spend with your kids has got to be the most beneficial for them and you. The biggest regret I have was not being there when they were younger. You know, coaching, teaching and stuff. That's the biggest regret from my family standpoint. I wasn't there enough. Because in my mind, you have to, when you're at work, you got to give it everything.
Yeah.
And so coaching football for so many years, it became to where no one's going to outwork me regardless. But when you say yes to this, you're saying no here. So because I was saying yes to this suffered, and they were great. They were supportive. They were always at the games. They were always cheering. Win or lose, you know, I smiled and saw them like, hey,
yeah.
And it was great. It was awesome. And I think more than anything, it's my biggest regret was not being there enough. Yet at the same time, the best thing I could have done was when I was there to be there, be present. And I wasn't always present, like by any means. I was tired or whatever, you know. And I think when I was present, I tried to just enjoy them because it's over in a snap. Like it is over. I remember my daughter running up to me, Daddy, 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 Daddy. And she would hug me. And I'm telling you, it was like overnight. It stopped. It stopped.
Yeah.
You know, I still remember going, wow, it's over.
Damn.
You know, I used to say goodnight to her and, you know, tuck her into bed, and she would look at me and go, she would like tap on the bed, like, come lay down. And I was like, oh, and time, my biggest regret. And I tell this to parents, like guys that just a little bit younger than I am that have young kids, don't ever pass a moment where they want to do something like that. Don't let it go, because when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it back. And I would tell her sometimes, like, I'm so hot and sweaty. Like I don't want to get your sheets. I should have just laid down.
Yeah. And
the times I did lay down, I fell asleep, and she'd be like, hey, Dad, you got to go to bed, because I got to go to bed. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I would tell my son, don't ever be ashamed to give your mom and dad a hug and a kiss, ever, no matter what. Don't ever be ashamed to, because that is like the lifeblood of what we can pass on to in family and true love. Because, you know, you said like your mom, you know, I'm 25. I'm going to be 46, and my mom's still like, oh, and she hugs me and stuff. And yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just, she is still like, oh no, hey, put a sweater on. I'm like, I'm 46 years old. Are you telling me to put a sweater? You're out of your mind. And you know what I say? I'm like, oh, I'm good, Mom. She goes, hi. Yeah. And she just like shakes her head. She goes, oh my gosh. And
he's going to die.
Yeah, but he's going to
pneumonia.
He's going to totally get sick. I'm like, oh man. But I don't think they ever stop. And, you know, my mom's a loving person. Yeah. A loving person. So, yeah, I think young parents, spend the time with your children. Teach them the basics of just manners and respect. And you got to model that. Yeah. That's the hardest thing. I didn't always model it right. I demanded it, but I didn't always model it right. But I also apologized for it. Yeah. So, I think
apologizing is big, especially when you actually mean it.
No, absolutely. If you can wholeheartedly validate someone and really listen to them and see their side. Yeah. And if you just continue to try and, you know, take yourself out of, wrap your brain around whatever happened some different way. That's important. That's huge.
Relationships. I've found myself, and even some of my friends are like, again, we're young and we're like hotheads, and we might have a girlfriend that's just like, hey, do you mind like doing this? And we're like, dude, what the hell? You're asking the world of me. And when in reality, it's really not. It's just like do you mind like texting me maybe during the day and just let me know what? And you're like, yeah, hey, I'm busy. Right. Everything's good. Boom. That's it. Like sometimes to meet someone in the middle is what I'm saying. How we're talking about like kids and growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
You've been a teacher since you said
99 student teaching, and hired 99 2000.
How have kids changed? Because I think I worked with kids for 5 years. My last year, that's what made me not want to teach. I was like, this is a different breed of kid, and especially and you hear this everywhere. All the old people always on that damn phone,
right?
But you have phones and technology, and I don't want to get graphic, but like I had 5th graders who were already watching porn,
right?
And just talking about it, and I would be like, you don't know what to say,
right?
So in all the time that you've been teaching, what have you noticed the most, or what are the small things that you've noticed?
You know what I think the biggest thing is the reason I feel like the reason society is morphing or changing into that, like what you're saying is like I think, but it's weird. Okay, back up. Every generation has its own issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we were growing up at Orangeland, these guys are defiant. These guys and like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But you never heard of students cussing at a teacher,
right?
Like, and when you did, you're like, oh dang, he just did that.
Yeah.
Like
he's gone.
Yeah. That's it. That's a wrap. That's over. But I think, what do you hear now? Kids will cuss somebody out, no problem. And why do they do that? Well, they have to learn it somewhere, and it has to be allowed somewhere. And you have to see it being modeled and acceptable.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing that's changed in my eyes is the respect. Don't get me wrong. I was disrespectful to a teacher once, but I felt validated. Like I felt I should, because you lied to me. You told me I could do this.
Yep.
And now you're taking it back. I didn't cuss him out, but I said, this is bull crap. I said that.
Whoa.
Because I wasn't going to cuss.
Yeah.
Because if I cuss and my dad finds out, it's over.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
100%. But I think the biggest thing that's happened is the respect factor, and I see it a lot with even kids today. A child will start complaining and doing whatever, and then okay, here, be quiet. And they just give them what they want. Okay,
yep.
Now I can do whatever I want.
Yep.
And then the parent starts modeling how they get mad at someone and they just lose it. So, and I think, and we've all done it, and our children do it. And my children have done it. And it's like, you know what? I know I've done that, and it's not okay. Like when I do it, and there's another way of doing it. Mm-hmm. There's another way of approaching whatever problem that you have, whatever you're doing. And it's, I think the biggest thing is respect. That's the one thing I've seen change, because every generation has a lack of respect for people, elders, whatever it may be, other, peers or what have you. But the respect factor, me coming up to you and saying like, I have a problem with this. And then if you fly off the handle, I'm just telling you I have a problem because I want to be done with it. I want to hold resentment. I don't want to hold that. So it's respect. It's respect of looking at someone. It's respect of shaking their hand. It's a respect of knowing like, where do I fall in this? And that carries over to everything. I mean, that carries over to your relationship, not only with your children, but your spouse, mm-hmm. your families, your peers. Like I said, it runs the gamut of everything that you're going to have. And I can tell you that, like for me, in that point in time where things, I talk about, I think I mentioned it, like it gets kind of up and down, mistakes and everything. It was a lack of respect, not only for my family, but for myself. And it's very sobering. It's very surreal. Like, okay, what is it that parents need to do? I don't have all the answers by any means. If I did, then, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere,
right.
Playing golf at a country club that costs way too much for anyone to imagine. I don't have all the answers, but I do have the life lessons and the things that I've learned that say like, okay, here's where you fell. You're getting another chance. How are you going to get up? And that's it. I mean, I believe more than anything, it's those life lessons that'll help.
Do you have to be out of here by a certain time?
No.
It's 4:29 right now.
Oh man, we've been going that long. Good Lord, people are gonna tune out. Dang, these guys can talk.
I don't think so, man. You might be right though. See, that's something else that I've seen has changed, even with me, is the attention span.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for you guys because you have to do the online classes and all that. And
right.
I was telling you before this that my friend's mom has to teach kindergartners online, and it's like, that's freaking crazy. And I had someone be like, I liked your solo episode because it was only 20 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't make everyone happy.
Exactly.
I get it,
dude. I've had so many people just be like, it's pretty good, but
but don't tell me but. It's funny, you get that, but that's some negative. What?
Yeah.
And then you start getting like, oh man.
Yeah,
like no, yeah, I get it.
But I've kind of learned to just, you can't please everyone.
Absolutely not.
And especially in my line of work, I've gotten crapped on so many times where I'm just like, if someone tells me something, someone else will tell me something different.
Right.
You know, I've had ex-girlfriends that I'm like, oh, check out this video. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like, well, you didn't like it? Well, you know, I'm like, my mom liked it.
She's a girl.
Exactly. Man, it's been incredible. But I think I want to end this on, we're obviously different in age.
Sure.
I've talked about, and I keep talking about things that I've learned about myself and things that I've learned about other people. I tend to be very observant. And I can also read people like really well. When they're in a room, I'm just like, this guy's not that cool.
Right.
But what is something that you've learned now? Do you mind how?
46 next month. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Damn.
All
that gray, man. Yeah, that's a lot of gray.
Yeah, we're almost 20 years. I mean, we're 20 years apart.
20 years
That's
apart,
crazy.
yeah.
First of all, before I say anything else, something I want to tell everyone is speak to people. We're just talking about when you talk to people, look at them and all that stuff, and etiquette's perfect. It's, the foundation of being a respectful person. But go out of your way to speak to someone. Something that I've been doing lately, and this is going off of the question, is I've been talking to more people who were once my superiors or my teachers, or
right.
I try not to forget where I came from, and I'll hit people up. Well, I messaged you and I was like,
right.
Hey, be on my podcast. And other people I've been like, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And I know it's kind of weird. Like, you used to be my teacher, but now, but if you put yourself out there and you speak to people that you usually wouldn't speak to, you learn so much.
Right.
Especially with people who aren't your same age, older people, younger people. Gentlemen, be careful. Don't go too young.
Yeah, exactly.
But, put yourself out there, man. Talk to people. In these, I don't even know how long it's been, like hour. In this hour, I've learned a ton, and I'm already like, my brain's already going.
Right. But
that being said, what's something that you've learned now, being 46, maybe a new foundation that you're putting into place? You were talking about your faith and all that. Mm-hmm. But what are some things, or one thing that you didn't know before, but now you're like, you can see clearly?
The fact that, and I think as you start getting older, people start becoming more distant, start to leave you, if you will.
Yeah.
Good example, my mom lost her brother on January 17th, and 2 months later lost her sister. There was only 3 of them. And my aunt was ill, and she was in and out of the hospital. But, people start leaving, and it's sad because as you're younger, you don't value time. You don't
right.
value, you really don't. You just, you keep going, and then all of a sudden you blink and you're already, 30, and then you look over and you're 40.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, the one thing I've really learned is to appreciate the people you're with. If you love them hard. Love them hard. There's something to be said about that. And I know for me, if I'm going to love you, I'm going to love you hard. And I'm going to just give you my all. And I'm going to, I think you learn to be more of a servant. What I do for a living, it's a servitude.
Right.
Like I serve the community. I serve students. That I'm there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is putting that out there. Like, I'm here for you. If you think I'm the meanest person in the world, like he's so mean. Well, the people that are the hardest on you and challenge you the most are the ones that care the most, because they want to see you do well. The people that just let you get by, like, don't do that. They don't want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you do great. They don't want to see you fail. Like, I want to see people fail so they respond and get back. Yeah, that's the biggest. I think in anything that you do, if life's taught me anything, I mean, without getting into it, there's close people in my life that are battling cancer. And a guy my age is battling a very aggressive form of cancer, had to have a kidney removed.
Oh boy.
And you know, you look at that and I'm thinking, you know, my dad died. I'm going to be 46, 8 years from now. He would, you know, when I turned 54, that's when he died. And so, you know, if I love a person, I'm going to tell you I love you. And if you don't believe me now, one day you might. And I'm not going to be here to show you, but I'm going to be consistent. And I think that's the biggest thing. And we don't, you know, if I'm sitting here and I'm sitting across from me 20 years ago, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have been like, okay, yeah. I would listen. Yeah, sure. You know, I'm a man, you know, I'm getting a man, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'm a man, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the biggest thing. I mean, I look at the time that I spent, you know, I can't go back and do anything. All I can do is now. And any relationships that I want to build or repair, I mean, I can only just do it now. And I think that's it. So, you know, from my kids, you know, from the things that we went through in the past, that's something that will always be a rebuilding. And I think that to me is important, because regardless, I want them to know that I love them unconditionally. You know, their mom and I aren't married. We're not married now, but in the end, I love her unconditionally. I will always try to help. I will always try to do what I can. You know, and, you know, not a lot of people know that about me, and I don't know, I just came out and said it, but, you know, it's been a total of over 2 years, going on 3. And, you know, when it comes down to it, and you mentioned, you know, young parents and such, it's so vitally important, I think, that children know that you love them. And you love them, and you explain why you're doing the things you're doing. I think because the generation is like, well, why? My generation was like, go do this. Okay.
Yep.
Now it's like, well, why do I have to? What are you talking about? So,
millennials.
Yeah. Crazy kid. Oh, wait. Yeah. But I think it's important that you tell them why. And I don't do it right all the time, by any means. I am not perfect. And you know, we touched on that in the very beginning. If you really knew what was going on behind my eyes, if you really knew what was deep down, would you, and then fill in the blank, would you still look at me this way? Would you still respect? Would you, you know, and, you know, students, they act up. I still love you. I'm still here. I'm here. You're going to run off. I'm still here. Mm-hmm. And that's where the faith comes in. Like, go wherever. I'm here. I'm here when you're ready. I'm here. I think that's it. Time. Doing all that.
Cherish it.
Absolutely.
Because one day you have a job, the next day you're stuck at home. And then you have to find a place to work. Local Hub right now, if you sign up, 50% off. I'm just kidding.
No. Great. That was actually a good segue.
Ooh, that laugh is going to hurt people in their ears. I can't thank you enough for being here. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for, my community, our community. That's crazy that your mom still lives in the house that you grew up in.
Midway.
I live by there. Yeah. I want to say thank you for being here. I want to say thank you for, again, everything you've done. And last week we were down there and someone you knew came over, or someone that we know, Raul, and he was just like, this guy, man, you have no idea. And we had just talked about Eddie when he came up to you, and
right.
And you spoke about it earlier. Yeah. But really, man, you've done so much for all of us, and in ways that you don't even know. So I want to thank you for being on here.
Thank you. You know what? I got to tell you real quick though, and your listeners should definitely know, what you're doing is amazing. As a teacher, I'm telling you, when you look at students that were with you, be it close or not, you had an impact or not, and then you see them and they're going after something with such tenacity, with such intensity, with such a drive, that to me is like, it speaks volumes, because someone molded you to do that. Something happened. There was an experience. There was something. There was a foundation being built. I use that word a lot, but a foundation because it's important. Mm-hmm. And you came to speak at Orange Glen during a portion where we were testing and students were getting cycled in, and you did an amazing job. I was floored. My mouth was like, man, look at that guy. I was just open. And I was like, look at him go. You captured their attention. Yes, you're young and you were close in age with them, so they kind of like they listened up. And then you have Miss Copeland's husband, who's in the military, older, but still got their attention. You could see when people are passionate about what they do, and you could see that in your talk. So as much as you're thankful for me to be here, I'm thankful that just looking at you, and no matter what happens, you've succeeded, because you can see that you're not going to stop. You're going to keep going. There'll be roadblocks, there'll be all kinds of things, but you're going to find your way over, around, under, whatever it is, you're going to find it. And I believe that wholeheartedly just watching you. And for me, it's humbling, and I'm just so grateful and thankful that you asked me to be here, because I get to be a part of this journey, and I get to see it, and I get to follow it, social media and stuff, and I get to and I get to listen to it, and for me as an educator, as a man looking at another young man going, look at that, that's he's got it going on, like, good for him. So,
I appreciate that. That's,
absolutely.
That's super humbling. Well, thank you for being here. I already said it. Yeah. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep saying, I'll probably text you as soon as you leave. Thank you so much.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, rate, review. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see. This has been an amazing podcast. Thanks for listening to This Life, a podcast by Mayorca Media. I will see you soon.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Hey, thank you. I don't know how it went. It went fast.
Right?
It really went fast. I don't even know what I said. I have no idea what I said. I'll do that. I'll black out, and I'll be like, what just happened?